Alrighty, both Facebook and uh, YouTube are good. I'll be heading off now. Take care.
Thanks, John. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, wherever you are and wherever this Thanksgiving weekend finds you. It is so good to be with all of you. And let's just take a deep breath in together. Shabbat is there for us at the end of every week, and we'll greet it together this week with a beautiful Hamera, a celebration of creation and a celebration of this siyum, this end of creation. Officially welcome in Shabbat by lighting our candles wherever you are. Hopefully you have your own candles. And whether or not you do, I invite you to join with me.
Just lighting the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat. And we'll continue welcoming in Shabbat with Lecha Dodi, which can be found on page 20. And today we will do verses 1, 2, and 9. Page 20.
Hey!
Amen.
And take a moment now that we've greeted the Shabbat bride to greet each other, whether that's a furry friend with you or a family member or a friend, or shoot someone a text or wave a little hello out your window to a neighbor, but take a moment to say hello. And I will say hello to Susan and Jamie on my screen. And we'll turn now to page 26 for Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'b'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru amen Yehei shmei rabba mevorach Leolam lo me'almaya yitzbarach ve'yishtabach yitzba'ar v'yitrumam ve'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma Veimeru, Amen. We'll turn now to the Barchu, an opportunity to be called to prayer wherever you are as one community. Please rise in body or spirit and turn to page 28. Page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 32. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We turn to page 34 for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha. Veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvekumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim leloechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. We'll turn now to Micha Mocha, a moment in our service where we remember our own freedom. We remember that moment of crossing the sea and of having all that laid out in front of us. And on this Thanksgiving weekend, I think it's important that we also remember those who aren't free yet and the history of what comes with freedom. So let's turn to page 40 together. And there's a reading here that I think speaks to the way that we can reach out to communities that are feeling a little less of that freedom. So page 40 at the top on the left-hand side, or page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Whoever you're marching with and whatever you're marching toward, page 40, Micha Mocha.
Lord,
turn now to page 42 for Hashkivenu. We turn to page 46 for our Amidah. Please rise in body or spirit. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekoneh hakol, vezocher chasdei avot v'imaot, umevi geula livnei vneihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava, melech ozer umoshia umagen, baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechayem eitim ata rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayem eitim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, michamocha bal gevurot, umidomelach, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, bene'eman ata lachayot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hametim. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh Ukedoshim bechol yom yehallelucha sela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. We continue silently through page 62. Please feel free to be seated when you are finished.
This is us now.
With the strength and the spirit of Shabbat, we turn now to the Misha Berach on page 253, sending that strength, that chizuk, to anyone who might need a little bit of extra love or a little bit of healing. And this week we are sending healing to Abba Noach ben Yehudit, Aliza Dorfman, Avivia Sigalit bat Devora, Barbara Lanzett, Barbara Zimin, David Feldman, Diane McCaslin, Dina Luton, Eleanor Lustig, Emma Held, Ethan Kaddish, Eva Jacob, Gemma Rose Nicoletti, Harav Nachama bat Yaakov Uvernice, James Nicoletti, Jeremy Pivor, Jim Solomon, Julian Arce, Leah bat Fagala, Lily Stander, Lisa Shapiro, Lynn Bauer, Mark Lampert, Mayor Abba ben Rovain, Moshe Yoel ben Esther Avraham, Nechama bat Trina Razel, Sarah Leah Esther bat Batya Chaya, Pam Ross, Peter Gross, Robert Friedman, Ron Abramson, Sam Goldenberg, Sarah Fega bat Malka, Sarit Liat bat Pnina Sara, Stephen Rose, Susan Hoyer, Susan Scheller, Tyson Botinus, Wendy Gully, John Newmeyer, Yosef Ben Gittel, Catherine Giles, Margaret Sweeney, Susan Stone, Lillian Shore, Bernice Slater, Norbert Grunfeld, Don Schuler, Elizabeth Day, Lynn Nathanson, Malkiel Shlomo HaKohen, Ben Rivka Yehuda Lieb, and Sylvia Wolfson. If you're watching on Facebook and you have an additional name, you can place that in the comments and I'll try to see if it comes up for me. And if not, have those names in your heart and we're right there with you. We'll turn now to page 253. It's really good to be with you all this Shabbat in whatever way you're coming to this screen. Every year on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I spend the day going through the motions of cooking while my head and heart is filled with nostalgia for the days I spent working at a bakery. As you can imagine, the day before Thanksgiving was one of the busiest days of the year. Bags of orders overflowed the counters. The bakers frantically churned out roll after roll, loaf after loaf. And at the front of the store, the lobby would inevitably fill up with customers who would then spill out the door. Part of our responsibility as counter staff was to try to prevent people from popping open the door or propping it open, which would inevitably lead to an influx of gusty winds. It became my unofficial role to be the head corraller of people. Pretend you like each other and scoot in closer, I would say. I'd usually draw a couple of chuckles, and lo and behold, the strategy also worked. I think I fell into this role because I really value direct communication, especially when it comes from a place of love. And I think it is perhaps my appreciation for direct communication that leaves me beyond upset and frustrated with this week's Torah portion, where all forms of positive communication are seriously lacking. In Parshat Toldot, we recount the famous story of Jacob and Esau, whose rivalry begins while they are still in Rebekah's womb. After they are born, Rebekah favors their son Jacob and Isaac favors their son Esau. And in the pinnacle of indirect, messy communication, Rebekah convinces her son Jacob to hoodwink his father Isaac into giving him the blessing he intended for Esau. If you had trouble following that sentence, it's because their family dynamic is downright wacky. Rebekah and Isaac don't speak to each other at all, but develop schemes for how to realize their own objectives. It would be the equivalent of me asking one of the bakers to fling a hot batch of rolls into the lobby in the hopes of that offering crowd control. Reading this story this week, I just felt kind of bereft, sickened by our matriarch and patriarch's trickery and deceit, and frustrated with our commentators' attempts to justify abhorrent behavior. The weekend of Thanksgiving, when we come together with family and friends, this hardly feels like the model of love and connection to draw from. But lucky for me and lucky for us, there's another character in this week's Parsha, someone who might easily fade into the background, but someone who I think is worth paying attention to. Avimelech. You might be asking, Avi who? Let me give you some background. Avimelech is king of the Philistines. He comes to know Isaac when Isaac settles with his family in Gerar, seeking relief from the famine plaguing his homeland. Avimelech and Isaac's relationship gets off to a rocky start, beginning with Isaac lying about his relationship with Rebekah. Isaac's deception effectively puts the entire community at risk, and Avimelech calls him out on it. Or, as the Torah puts it, Avimelech says, "What have you done to us?" Things get even more dicey from there when Isaac and his family start amassing great wealth and success, drawing envy and negative attention from the rest of the community. For context as to how these people were feeling, imagine that the people of Gerar are a bunch of independently owned bookstores. An online book retailer opens up, and suddenly that bookstore is booming, expands to include multiple other products, becomes the second largest private employer in the United States, and leaves those tiny bookstores floundering. Now, before I risk further comparing our dear patriarch Isaac to Jeff Bezos, let me just say that the people of Gerar grew agitated, and they took out their frustration by filling up the water wells dug by Isaac's dad, Abraham. So far, we're seeing similar themes: deception, growing tension, outrage. It's a lot. But here's where things shift. Avimelech speaks to Isaac. The verse says, "Vayomer Avimelech el Yitzchak, lech me'imanu, ki atzamta mimenu me'od." And Avimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you have become far too big for us." The commentator Yitzchak Shmuel Reggio close reads this verse to notice that Avimelech doesn't say, "Leave and don't come back," or "leave this country," but he says, "Go away me'imanu," from being within us. He is telling Isaac to give the community a little space, to step back a little bit. This is Avimelech advocating for himself and his community, speaking directly while coming from a place of love. This is Avimelech saying to Isaac, "I love spending time with you, and I just need some introvert time." This is Avimelech saying to Isaac, "I hope we can see each other soon, and I need a low-key Thanksgiving this year." This is Avimelech saying to Isaac, "I'm so excited to hear your stories, Aunt Sue, and I'm also curious what Uncle Jeff has been up to." This is Avimelech saying to Isaac, "I love your ideas, Jack, and I want to give someone else in the class or in the board meeting or in the work meeting another chance to speak." Avimelech is modeling what it looks like to communicate directly, to take a little bit of a risk in order to create a healthier community. And this risk is hard. One commentator even suggests that Avimelech was trying to avoid this direct communication, or confrontation, if you will, at all costs. Al-Sheikh, a commentator from the 1500s, suggests that Avimelech was ashamed to personally tell Isaac to leave, even though he was clearly causing problems for the community. Al-Sheikh says that Avimelech actually allowed his people to stop up the wells in the hope that Isaac would take the hint and leave. If you've ever tried the "let me just start clearing the dishes and maybe people will realize I'm tired and want to wrap up" strategy, or if you've ever put the toilet paper roll on top of the empty roll just to point out that it is in fact possible to replace it, you can probably sympathize with Avimelech. I know that I can. But even if Avimelech started with this more indirect, perhaps even a little bit passive-aggressive strategy, as Al-Sheikh suggests, when he sees that it's not working, he takes matters into his own hands and he speaks personally to Isaac. With our matriarchs and patriarchs, what we see in this parsha, in this Torah portion, is a continued legacy of indirect communication and deception. Rather than talk with Isaac, Rebekah deceives him. Rather than face his brother Esav, Jacob literally runs away. But as we see modeled from Avimelech here, and as we will see in almost 10 chapters from now, when Jacob and Esav reconcile, spoiler alert, shifting our communication is possible. Shifting our communication is possible. Even if we start out trying to hint at something or start out by bringing others into our conflicts, we can speak personally with one another. And even when speaking personally with each other is difficult, we need not give up. You can bring up the toilet paper roll or kindly tell people you're tired, or more high stakes, you can tell your sibling or partner or friend that something in your relationship has to shift. In that last scene between Avimelech and Isaac, Avimelech seeks Isaac out in Beersheba, where he has settled. Isaac, still hurting from being told to leave, greets Avimelech on the defensive. Why have you come to me, seeing that you've been hostile to me and you've driven me away from you, he says. And Avimelech, rather than respond in an acrid, harsh way, offers an olive branch. He suggests, well, we see now that God has been with you, and we thought, let there be a treaty between our two parties, between you and us. Let us make a pact with you. Avimelech acknowledges that it takes two to make this pact, and yet he offers the olive branch. Although reluctant at first, Isaac accepts this olive branch, and in a move that feels unbelievably relevant to this time of year, he invites Avimelech and his crew to dinner. Vaya'as lahem mishteh, vayachlu vayishtu. Then Isaac made for them a feast, and they ate and drank. However you're eating and drinking this Thanksgiving, however you're spending it, whether like Rebecca and Isaac, you've been struggling to communicate, or like Isaac and Avimelech, you've been navigating the tenderness of direct communication, or like those bakery patrons, you were scooching in a little closer to the people around you. I hope that you have found and can find the kind of communication you need. As Avimelech teaches us, shifting our communication is possible. You can be a little more direct, or a little more gentle, or a little more patient, even when it's hard. You can advocate for yourself and for your community. So take a risk. It might just be worth it. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now to Aleinu on page 282 as we rise together in body or spirit. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. We turn back toward us as we turn to page 294 for the Kaddish. This Shabbat, like every Shabbat, even with the joy of Shabbos, we still feel a little bit of pain for those who we miss and those we wish were still next to us. And this week, we're remembering Gail Merson, the mother of Julie Wolbarts, who's in the Shloshim. And we're remembering the Yortzites of Loretta Arost, David Chernak, Norman Cohen, Gerald Davis, Phyllis Dress, Claire Elias, Mark J. Gredinger, Jack Gerwitz, Judy Ham, Merton Honeyman, Bruce Huntley, Rhoda Lazarus, Samuel Leavitt, Robert Joseph Levin, Ronald Merson, Alan Romanow, Edna Yamron Satinover, Hermine Patricia Sloan, Harriet Suvale, Aaron Chugman, Eleanor Winter, and Sarah Wolf. For those names and all the others we are remembering, we turn to page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'amad divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, be'chayachon uvyomachon uv'chayei d'chol beit Israel, bagala uvizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shmei dekudasha b'richu. Le'elah min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Israel v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Israel, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. You may be seated. We turn now to page 5 for Kiddush and Motzi. Wherever you're making Kiddush and Motzi, and whatever you are making it with, and whoever you're making it with, it's good to welcome in Shabbat together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'avav ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, Yotanu kidasha mikol ha'amim, b'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. And before we turn to our Hamotzi, a couple things. One is a reminder that we will still have Shabbat morning tomorrow on Zoom if you want to join us for Shabbat Minyan or Torah study. And the other is that before we turn to our Hamotzi, which nourishes our bodies, I want to thank Susan and Jamie for nourishing our souls with such beautiful music today, all the way from Tennessee. So much gratitude to both of you. Thank you, thank you. And thank you to all of you at home who are joining us along this evening. I'm unwrapping the challah here, and we'll join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lecha min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.